Here's exactly what he said. These ships should go through the Strait of Hormuz and show some guts. There's nothing to be afraid of. They have no navy. We sunk all their ships. He went on to say, he said, look, yeah, there's risk in the region. The region's volatile.
Have some guts. There's nothing to be afraid of out there except for missiles.
All right. Let's sit with this for a second. Our president, commander-in-chief, saying, hey, man, no guts, no glory. Go big or go home. What are you so afraid of? It's not like there's a war zone, in that area. It's not like bombs dropping out of the sky. It's not like, Iran hasn't shown themselves to be, now that they're under attack and stuff like that, they're essentially throwing a temper tantrum by way of missile launches, missile strikes. Yeah, what could go wrong? Like, I'm sure you'll pull into port, you'll offload your goods, and yeah, they'll sign off on the paperwork, business as usual, or whatever. However, business is conducted at the port. They sail into port, they get loaded up with the oil, they pay whatever it's going to be, and then they're back out. Like, I don't know, in what world is that a possibility? I just don't get how it's business as usual in the middle of a war zone. But what's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Trey, back at it again. Got another video for y'all. So, y'all always hear me tell you that I support independent media. Mainstream news has, on both sides of the aisle has gotten a little bit too commercial for me. A lot of opinion, a lot of ridiculousness, a lot of performative stuff going on. So I appreciate independent news because they, at the moment, are not beholden to anyone, so they can kind of speak their minds and give us like true news the way we used to get it, right? So what I got here is a video from Breaking Points. This one of the independent news organizations that I go to. I like to see how they engaged and how they present the information and things of that nature. Yeah, they give some opinion on it as well, but I'm saying I it's not as it's not performative at all. They are going over the facts. They give their takes. You get to know the different personalities of Sagar and Crystal. They've got other anchors as well. But yeah, let's get into it. This is a video about, I believe they're talking about Trump trying to encourage boats to, brave the seas of Hormuz to make sure we keep this oil flowing. For those that know about Dune, the spice must flow.
Turning now to the oil markets. Yesterday was literally one of the most historic days in the history of the oil market. Massive swings past $100 a barrel, all the way down to some $80, $89 per barrel at the time that we are recording this. But what it is acknowledgement of is this administration is panicking over the price of oil. They're floating a lot of different things. We showed you earlier. Trump says he may take over the entire Straits of Hormuz. As of this morning, it appears the United States Navy is spending a significant amount of time going after Iranian mining assets all throughout the Straits of Hormuz. But Trump has also floated a different option, telling Fox News that some of these maritime pilots, they need to just have some guts and run the strait. Take a listen.
Here's exactly what he said. These ships should go through the Strait of Hormuz and show some guts. There's nothing to be afraid of. They have no navy. We sunk all their ships. He went on to say, he said, look, yeah, there's risk in the region. The region's volatile.
Have some guts. There's nothing to be afraid of out there except for missiles.
All right. Let's sit with this for a second. Our president, commander-in-chief, saying, hey, man, no guts, no glory. Go big or go home. What are you so afraid of? It's not like there's a war zone, in that area. Not like bombs dropping out of the sky. It's not like, Iran hasn't shown themselves to be, now that they're under attack and stuff like that, they're essentially throwing a temper tantrum by way of missile launches, missile strikes. Yeah, what could go wrong? Like, I'm sure you'll pull into port, you'll offload your goods, and yeah, they'll sign off on the paperwork, business as usual, or whatever. However, business is conducted at the port. You know, they sail into port, they get loaded up with the oil, they pay whatever it's going to be, and then they're back out. Like, I don't know in what world is that a possibility. I just don't get how it's business as usual in the middle of a war zone. But, you know, maybe I'm just being too hard on the commander-in-chief.
Except for fire. Also, did you notice like the video that they're playing of Tehran, the oil apocalypse? And they're like, yeah, have some guts and just go through that. By the way, they'll have plenty of guts. If oil's at $200 a barrel, sure, they'll go. At the current price, no, they're not doing it. Especially with all of the insurance stuff that's going on right now. I also wanted to make sure that Fox News, which, you know, you'll remember was very concerned about gas prices, as was I think all Americans should have been under Biden. Now they're saying, look, pull up your trousers, all right? Pull your pants up and get ready for war, boys and girls. It's your patriotic duty to pay more at the gas pump. Take a listen.
Until people can wrap their heads around that, I just think about every time this happens and people start, the gas prices! My dad pulls out the ration coupon book from World.
And so, look, this is the thing. This is why I'm saying it's performative, right? You know, when gas prices were high during Biden, you know, it was Biden's fault. What the hell is going on? We're paying more at the pumps. Biden. Now we're like, the gas prices are going up because we decided to attack Iran, and we're at war. I get it, man. I don't agree with the war, but we're in it now, right? And these are the things that come of it. Like, so, you know, if you are watching this, I encourage you, you know, plan accordingly, because we don't know if this is going to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But more than just gas prices are going to go up because of this war. Like, there's a lot of different things that are going to be affected by the lack thereof or the price of oil. It is what it is. So yeah, this performative stuff, like I think you'll hear me say it multiple times, that pretty much at this point Fox is state media. So they're always going to have a decent amount of people that are going to just, you know, no matter what the administration is doing, it's like, hey, nothing to see here. Everything's good. You're fine. Yes, you'll have to pay a little bit more, but, you know, that just means that, you know, you won't be able to get to and from work. Maybe you just get to work and then somebody else, like, you share, right? You go to and from work on Monday, carpool, man. And then, you know, somebody else brings you to and from work on Tuesday. You know, y'all alternate every other day. You know, I drive, then you drive. We just share this gas. We're Americans. We stick together.
War II, and tells me how my granddaddy's Chevy dealership just went poof overnight. Didn't get it back. Lost his business. It just went goodbye because all of the auto manufacturing was redirected toward wartime manufacturing. So let's pull our trousers up, shall we?
I mean, it sounds like your dad is a reasonable guy, right? It's like he kind of should be worried about gas prices and telling some of those stories in the past. That's what I think about too. Every time we get
is this a World War II? We all need to come together. No, people do not want this war. I mean, it is very likely to make the world a more dangerous place. It is already putting Americans at greater risk. They are unlikely to accomplish any of their objectives. The end state of this is much more likely that Iran is going to acquire a nuclear weapon. And then you're cavalierly from your air-conditioned studio with your multi-million-dollar salary there in Manhattan telling Americans to pull up their trousers and sacrifice for a war that they did not want.
And see, like I said, this is why it's important to find some independent news organizations that you like or that you enjoy. And I encourage you, just get your news from there, because that's honest talk. That's honest talk. That's just laying it out for you. You got two different, you know, point, counterpoint kind of deal, or two different points kind of agreeing. But that is a lot of sentiment. Some people agree with the war. So yeah, aside from that part, right? Because not everybody is on the side of, hey, we don't agree with this war. But for those that don't, like, she's on point. Like, this is a mess, man.
I mean, it's so disgusting and preposterous to me. And you're right to point out the hypocrisy too, of course, because I'm sure when it was Biden and it was Ukraine, there was all kinds of concern for ordinary Americans and, you know, what they would be paying at the pump.
Right, exactly. You know, right now, as we're speaking, I was just checking the AAA, $3.53 a gallon. It's going to be $3.54 roughly a gallon, and a increase from 1 week ago where it was $3.10. 1 month ago, it was $2.92.
Oh, and we're just getting.
Look, I don't know where y'all are at in the world. I want to say 2 weeks ago, I had to fill up. I had to fill up again last week, but 2 weeks ago I filled up. It was like $2.53 a gallon. A week later, it went up to $3. Now, granted, I stopped at a Love's, but I was on E, so I had to stop at the Love's. Don't judge me. I should have just held out a little bit longer, tried to get a cheaper gas. But anyway, it was like $3. Last weekend, me and the family went out, grabbed some dinner at a restaurant, and we were at $2.89. So, yeah, I'm not sure where we're at, but just to give you from where I'm sitting, what's affected me, those were the different fluctuations that I've seen in the process of 2 weeks.
Started, baby. We are just getting started here.
Yeah, I mean, what a disaster. And then diesel also remains, you know, way remains on its way to some $4 or $5 per gallon. So you all know how that's going to work out. Let's go ahead and put the price of oil up there. As I explained yesterday, literally one of the most historic days in the history of the oil market. We took this literally right as we are filming, so keep that in mind. As things all swing around, you have no idea where things are going to end up. Don't forget, though, that even where it is right now, so it's $88.40 a gallon in the live market. In the last month, that means that oil is still up some 38% in terms of its price, and obviously that's going to impact what happens at the gas pump. But the main reason why the price of oil appears to have gone down, let's put E4 up here on the screen, is because we are now turning and, quote, standing ready to release emergency oil reserves. So finance ministers from the entire G7 are pledging.
They had some, so Breaking Points did have an interview with some, I want to say it was Breaking Points, but they had an interview with pretty much like an oil guru, like oil market guru. He has been tracking international oil prices, you know, and things of that nature. And he was saying now take this for what it is, but he's expecting that, you know, if we continue for weeks on end, with this conflict or war, whatever. I'm not trying to get into an argument about what we're calling this thing. That he could definitely see it going up to $200 per gallon. Now, that could be catastrophizing a bit, but we will see. But he also did say, like, you know, that we're going to have to go into the reserves, and that's what we should have already been doing in preparation. So he was kind of insinuating that if we were really planning this thing out ahead of time, we would already got into the reserves.
Necessary measures to tackle surging crude prices, but stop short of an immediate deal. So they said they won't immediately release it, but they said they want to address the impact of the Iran war, stand ready to take necessary measures included to support global supply of energy, such as stockpile releases. However, that would only be about 90 days or so worth of supply that they'd be able to release into the market. And if things did continue to go on, then obviously you have the whole Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is going to take a hit, but you also have the war, which they would need to wrap up at that time. So this is currently like the biggest indication, but I do think it's already worth noting things are already going crazy all across the world. So Bangladesh, one of the poorest countries in the world, they're already reporting power outages. Pakistan is reporting grid problems. In Bangalore, actually. Let's put E6 up there on the screen. The story was going around. Bangalore hotels will now face shutdown from March 10th due to commercial gas supply. So cooking gas. If you've never been to India, there's a lot of cooking gas. That's the way that they cook everything.
So I can't remember where I see. I like to try and cite my sources whenever I can, to give y'all an idea of the stuff that I'm coming across and how it plays into all of this. But I've seen somewhere like pretty much all of these different things are going to have different effects on different economies across the world. It's going to have lasting implications. So us in America, we're going to see it as price increases or, and there may end up, depending on how long we're at it, we could see some shortages. But, as he's talking about right here, some countries, like, it's just shortages, right? It just, like, you're going to have to cut power. You're going to have to do without a lot of these things because of, like, how dependent we are on, the Strait of Hormuz, for instance, like, to be able to get this oil. Hell, like, we're not really even talking about it, but what we did in Venezuela is putting a stranglehold on Cuba, and we're pretty much trying to force them into some sort of a regime change, or I don't know, more to follow on that. But they were severely dependent on that oil from Venezuela, but as y'all know, that's ours now. It's my shit now.
Bangalore, by the way, is one of the most developed cities in all of India. If you've ever been, that's where all the Silicon Valley people go. I'm pretty sure there's a direct flight from San Francisco to Bangalore. So imagine these Meta executives sitting in the Four Seasons, and they're like, whoa, hold on a second, where's my breakfast, man? And they're like, yeah, sorry, we can't cook anything because of a gas constraint. So you could seriously begin to see some of this stuff ripple across the entire world. And remember what Rory Johnson said on our show yesterday. He's like, we will see significant demand destruction across the entire third world. Like, you'll see the third world, supplies there will just dry up. People won't even be able to drive.
Yeah.
And the rest of the developed world will just pay $5 a gallon. But that's the nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Where we are right now.
No, what he said was crazy. He was like, remember back to when everything was shut down in COVID and the level of demand destruction that entailed, meaning that people are not going anywhere because everyone was just locked in their houses. He's like, that's what we're talking about here. That's the level of demand destruction that you're going to need in order to be able to equalize these markets if this persists for any significant amount of time. So that's where we are. I mean, you look at the markets and they are betting on a taco. They're betting that Trump is going to end the war, that it'll just be a little blip, that, the oil markets will be a little bit, there'll be some challenges in the short term, but they'll be able to recover and all the oil fields will continue operating and the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened and things will get back to normal in the immediate or very near term. Yeah. And look, maybe that's possible. It's possible Trump finds some way to declare mission accomplished and that the Iranians, having been thoroughly, battered in a lot of ways, are like, okay, fine, we'll walk away as well.
I gotta stop for a second. So, and I've said this many times, and I'm probably going to continue to say it throughout this conflict or war as long as it's lasting. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect case scenario. We come to some sort of arrangement or agreement that stops the fighting. Right, Strait of Hormuz is back open back up. We go back to some form of business as usual, right? The types of people that we're dealing with, remember, like, one of the additional reasons that we're, kind of throwing out there to just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks to make people support this war is that, 3 decades ago, Iran was saying death to America, right? Iran was responsible for killing a whole bunch. Do you think they're going to just forgive and forget? Like, we come to an arrangement, we sign whatever deal we do, they restructure their whole country and government, their leadership and all that different stuff because we've killed majority of everyone. And then they go back to business as usual. These are the type of people responsible for arming terrorists and things of that nature. So, yeah, we just created 1, 2, 3 decades worth of propaganda to create more terrorists and or recruit more terrorists, right? So let's not kid ourselves by whenever this thing is done thinking that it's over. I don't like being the one to say this, but at some point in time, there is going to be some sort of hostage situation, some sort of mass casualties type situation. There are already a couple of things that have been happening stateside, but it's, they're not strong enough to come and send, obviously after this, they're not going to be strong enough to put boats off the coast of the United States and just lob missiles and strikes and things of that nature. No, but they are not pushovers. They are going to fight however they can fight, and they have shown time and time again, guerrilla warfare, like insurgent strikes, they have perfected it. They will lie in wait for a perfect opportunity and hit us again. You don't have to be a rocket science to see where this is going to head, and I hate it, man.
It's possible, but it's not looking likely. Just given I think the Trump taco part would be a reasonable bet. But on the Iranian side, it's certainly not what they're projecting. And it would not be logical for them strategically to at this point say, okay, we're going to allow you to recoup and regroup when clearly you are sustaining damage. We're going to allow you to rebuild, for example, your radar satellite systems in the region so you can better track our missiles. We're going to allow you to recover and to spend more time manufacturing interceptors so you're more ready the next time around. Why would that make any strategic sense for the Iranians? And the other thing, just going back to the point I was making before, they are engaged as much in economic warfare as they are in military warfare. Their goal is to crash our stock market, to crash our economy, to, squeeze us in terms of gas prices. That is their goal. And so as the markets are betting that things are just going to go back to normal, that is the polar opposite of the strategy that is being deployed here by the Iranians. I guess the other possibility is that we truly have degraded their capacity to the point that they can't keep up the blockade and the Strait of Hormuz, which, by the way, isn't even really a blockade. They've just scared people enough that, and screwed with the insurance industry enough that tankers are like, okay, we're not going to do this right now. But perhaps we've degraded them enough that they can't launch more missiles, that, their leadership is taken out enough that they can't continue to drone strike, various facilities in the region or pose any sort of a threat to vessels that are trying to pass through the strait. That would be the other bet. But again, given that they have this decentralized leadership, given the fact you see no indications of, massive rifts within the regime or any sort of public uprising, given that they have significant domestic manufacturing capacity for the drones that they're able to create in a very low-cost way, it seems very unlikely to me that that is going to be the direction that we ultimately go in. And last thing I'll say is, look, we have been covering this long before this war. Our economy is a house of cards. Right, the whole thing, the job creation already last month was negative. Yeah. The only sectors that added any jobs throughout all of 2025 were basically like healthcare.
They're making a valid point. And I think one thing to consider is I guess there's never really a perfect time for war, but this really wasn't a good time for it. Especially, given the nature of everything, all breaking news and headlines and things like that aside, because we could talk about that as well. Epstein files, I guess. But no, I'm just the economy in itself, affordability and stuff like that has been a major talking point, a major point of frustration for a lot of Americans, right? And like I said, this is going to affect your pocketbook and your grocery bill, your gas bill. If you're purchasing things, God forbid anybody is building a house, you name it, man. Just a lot of everyday things that people take for granted. Building a house, I don't think rent or stuff like that, but building a computer or upgrading a computer or buying any sort of electronics and things all these different things, these little nuanced things, the price is going up. So I hope that y'all got some savings, but if you're like most Americans, you paycheck to paycheck, and I feel for you.
And social services. The only real growth industry are these freaking data centers. Well, guess what that's based on? The economics of that is based on access to cheap energy. So the whole thing is built on this access to cheap energy. That's the whole bet, the AI bet that's been placed in our economy. That is all being threatened right now by the Iranians, and they're smart enough to understand that. There's no doubt about it.
Well, don't forget some of the ripple effects. So, for example, the Gulf states.
If you were a country getting obliterated by another country, a larger superpower, you can't just fold. You can't just fold. It is what it is. So you can just... all you can hope to do is as much damage as you can until you're defeated. because, you know, their defeat all in all is kind of sort of inevitable, you know, even if like it goes full on conflict and stuff like that. But what does our victory look like? You know, we don't completely wipe them out. That's never the case. But yeah, they're gonna do as much. That's all. That's their only play. That's their only card to play, is just like, hey, how can we inflict some sort of damage? We're not gonna win. We're not gonna win, but we need to be able to fight however we can fight. Fight through the economy. Fight through making them feel it in their own country. Like, yeah. They're just gonna use anything that they can to be able to try and get a swing off.
The Gulf states, if they have contractions in their economy, what are they going to do? Who wants to tell me who is financing a ton of these data center deals? The Gulf,
that's right.
Emiratis, the UAE,
that's right.
All of these people. Who wants to tell me who's financing Paramount and their current purchase of, you know, not going to cry about that one, but I'm just saying, like, Paramount and their takeover of WBD. Saudis, a bunch of the Gulf states. If this Gulf state money dries up, I mean, who God only knows what the hell they're for. Uber is, you know, massively invested. Google, Twitter, I mean, all these places. Like, you have no idea the tentacles
they got
of
their
all
hands in
this
a lot of
cash.
pots.
It's in everything. And if they have to start exiting their positions or sell, I mean, God help us in terms of the U.S. economy. I'm talking about shopping mall closure. I mean, remember where I was growing up in Texas, all the nicest malls are all owned by like the Kuwaiti royal family. You have no idea where all of this cash has been. Right. That's their whole strategy, is about coming like this with the U.S. with the assumption is we'll defend them. Now what? Right? And if they're really starting to get hit, now they're a target. They're mad. They might pull their cash. That's what that billionaire was saying. He's like, hey, you know, the whole point of this whole thing was we get something in exchange. But if this deal is going to dry up, we might fundamentally rethink a whole lot of assumptions and cause a lot of problems for you too. And that's probably what I'm the most afraid of. So it's ordinary Americans, our whole capital markets, venture capital, depression. I mean, that's how the 1970s played out. So it's really bad. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
Yeah, I encourage y'all. Breaking Points is one of the independent media that I support, believe in. There's a couple. I go to multiple. Yes, and I do dare to brave the occasional Fox News just to see what the other side of the aisle is talking about. It's rough, but I do it. I think it's important. I realize that no matter what, I do have certain biases. But like I said, I want to see the other side of the aisle, how they're operating, where they're getting their information from to some extent. And yeah, it's a mess. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. If y'all liking the content, subscribe to the channel. I'm a new YouTuber. It means a lot. It helps me grow. Comment. Let me know things that you're liking, where I can improve, anything. I'm going to keep on the grind. And until next time, I'll holla at you.